The galaxy was a place of darkness and fear. For hundreds of years, the Zorathians ruled with an iron grip. These creatures were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Towering insectoids with gleaming exoskeletons that shimmered like polished metal. Their eyes glowed with cold, calculating intelligence, and their claws could tear through steel as if it were paper. But what made them truly terrifying was their hunger for control. They did not just conquer planets. They crushed hope itself. Earth was no exception. Once a thriving world full of dreams and ambition, humanity now lived under the shadow of the Zorathian Empire. Cities lay in ruins from past invasions, and resources were scarce. The people of Earth had learned to survive, but survival came at a cost. Freedom was a distant memory, replaced by fear. Every night, children looked up at the stars, not with wonder, but with dread, knowing that somewhere out there, the Zorathians watched. But not everyone had given up. Captain Daniel Carter was one such person. A tall man with sharp features and piercing blue eyes, he carried himself with quiet confidence. His voice was calm, but there was fire in his heart, a fire fueled by the belief that humanity still had a chance. Daniel commanded the SS Vanguard *, one of Earth's last remaining warships. It wasn't the largest or most advanced vessel, but it was fast, nimble, and crewed by some of the bravest individuals left on the planet. Daniel's crew trusted him completely. Lieutenant Laura Bennett, his second-in-command, was a woman of action. With her short brown hair and steady hands, she was the kind of person who could take charge in any situation. Then there was Dr. Richard Hayes, a physicist whose soft-spoken nature hid a brilliant mind. He spent most of his time studying alien technology, hoping to find a way to even the odds against the Zorathians. And finally, there was Ensign Adam Grant, a young pilot fresh out of training. Eager to prove himself, Adam often pushed the limits of the ship's engines, much to Laura's annoyance. One day, news reached Earth that sent shockwaves through its fragile society. Rumors spoke of a new superweapon being built by the Zorathians near the edge of known space. No one knew exactly what it was, but whispers described it as something capable of destroying entire planets. If completed, it would mean the end of all resistance, not just for Earth, but for every species in the galaxy. Daniel knew he couldn't wait for orders. He approached Chancellor Patricia Monroe, the leader of Earth's fractured government, with a bold plan. "We need to strike first," he said, standing tall in her dimly lit office. "Take the Vanguard deep into enemy territory, locate the weapon, and destroy it before it can be activated." Chancellor Monroe hesitated. She was a cautious woman, always weighing risks carefully. "If we lose the Vanguard we'll have nothing left to defend ourselves," she replied, her voice heavy with doubt. "We already have nothing," Daniel countered firmly. "If we do nothing, we're finished anyway. This is our only chance." After hours of debate, Monroe reluctantly agreed. She gave Daniel permission to go ahead with his mission, though she made it clear that failure would leave Earth defenseless. As Daniel walked away from her office, he felt the weight of responsibility settle onto his shoulders. This wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about proving that humanity still had the will to fight back. When Daniel returned to the Vanguard his crew was ready. They had heard the rumors too, and they shared his determination. Together, they prepared for what might be their final journey. The Zorathians had ruled the galaxy in fear for far too long. It was time for someone to stand up to them. And as the Vanguard launched into the vastness of space, Daniel and his crew vowed to show the galaxy that even the smallest spark could light the way to freedom. The SS Vanguard slipped silently through the void of space, its sleek form gliding past distant stars and swirling nebulae. For days, the crew worked tirelessly to ensure they stayed undetected. The Zorathians had eyes everywhere: patrol ships, sensor arrays, and automated drones that prowled the galaxy like hungry predators. One wrong move, one stray signal, and the mission would end before it even began. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, his sharp blue eyes scanning the screens in front of him. He was a man who rarely showed fear, but the enormity of their task weighed heavily on him. Destroying a super weapon deep in enemy territory wasn't just dangerous, it was nearly impossible. Yet he couldn't shake the feeling that this mission was humanity's only hope. If they failed, Earth would fall, and with it, any chance of freedom for the galaxy. Lieutenant Laura Bennett approached him, her face serious. "We're approaching the coordinates you marked," she said, pointing to a blinking dot on the navigation screen. "There's something there, a small outpost. It looks abandoned." Daniel frowned. Nothing about the Zorathians was ever truly abandoned. "Let's investigate," he said after a moment. "But we stay cautious. I don't want to walk into a trap." The Vanguard slowed as it neared the mysterious structure. It was a jagged metallic mass floating in the darkness, its surface scarred by time and debris. Dr. Richard Hayes studied the readings from his console. "It's definitely Zorathian," he murmured. "But the energy signature is faint. Whatever this place was, it hasn't been used in years." Despite the apparent lack of activity, Daniel decided to send a team inside. Disguised as scavengers, Laura and Ensign Adam Grant boarded a small shuttle and made their way to the outpost. Daniel watched from the bridge, his jaw clenched tightly. Every second felt like an eternity. Inside the outpost, Laura and Adam moved carefully, their footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. The air smelled stale, and the walls were covered in strange markings, Zorathian symbols that seemed to pulse faintly under the dim lights. "This place gives me the creeps," Adam whispered, clutching his weapon nervously. "Stay focused," Laura replied sharply. She pointed to a door at the end of the hallway. "That's where the main control room should be. Let's see if we can find anything useful." When they entered the control room, they found rows of inactive consoles and a large holographic display in the center. Adam activated his scanner while Laura worked to bring the system online. After a few tense moments, the display flickered to life, showing a map of the surrounding region. At the edge of the map was a massive red marker labeled in Zorathian script. "What does it say?" Adam asked, squinting at the unfamiliar symbols. "It's the superweapon," Laura said grimly. "And it's closer than we thought." Before they could gather more information, alarms blared throughout the outpost. Red lights flashed, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the distance. "They know we're here," Adam exclaimed, panic creeping into his voice. "Move," Laura shouted, grabbing his arm. They sprinted back toward the shuttle, dodging bursts of energy fired by Zorathian drones that had suddenly come to life. The creature's glowing eyes followed them relentlessly, their claws clicking against the metal floors. Back on the Vanguard Daniel watched anxiously as the shuttle returned, pursued by a swarm of enemy fighters. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," he ordered. The ship shuddered as it came under fire, but Adam skillfully piloted the shuttle into the docking bay just in time. The moment the hatch sealed, the Vanguard leaped into hyperspace, leaving the outpost and the pursuing Zorathians far behind. As the crew caught their breath, Laura reported what they had discovered. The superweapon wasn't just a threat. It was a planet killer capable of obliterating entire solar systems. Worse still, its activation was imminent. Daniel listened silently, his expression unreadable. The odds were stacked against them, but he refused to give up. "We've got our target," he said finally, his voice steady. "Now we need a plan." The Vanguard raced through the galaxy, its engines humming with urgency. The crew had little time to rest after their narrow escape from the Zorathian outpost. The information they had gathered was both a blessing and a curse. They now knew where the superweapon was located, but the clock was ticking. If they didn't act quickly, countless lives would be lost. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, staring at the star map displayed on the main screen. The red marker indicating the superweapon's location blinked ominously. It was deep in enemy territory, surrounded by heavily guarded systems. Getting there undetected would be nearly impossible. Even if they succeeded, destroying the weapon would require more than just courage. It would take a miracle. "We need help," Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. His voice was calm but firm. "We can't do this alone." Lieutenant Laura Bennett nodded in agreement. "There are rebel factions scattered across the galaxy," she suggested. "If we can find one willing to join us, it might give us a fighting chance." Daniel considered the idea. The Solari Syndicate was the most well-known group of rebels. They were a secretive coalition of species united by their hatred of the Zorathians, but gaining their trust wouldn't be easy. The syndicate was led by Commander Elena Torres, a woman known for her fierce independence and unwillingness to take unnecessary risks. Still, it was their best option. After days of careful navigation, the Vanguard arrived at the Syndicate's hidden base, a massive asteroid carved into a fortress. Its surface was jagged and pockmarked, making it nearly invisible to sensors. As the ship approached, a voice crackled over the comms. "Identify yourselves or be destroyed." "This is Captain Daniel Carter of the SS Vanguard *", Daniel replied. "We seek an audience with Commander Torres. We have vital information about a Zorathian superweapon." There was a long pause before the voice responded. "Docking Bay 3. Do not attempt anything foolish." When the crew stepped off the ship, they were met by armed guards, beings of various species, all wearing the same insignia on their armor. They were led to a dimly lit chamber where Commander Torres awaited them. She was a striking figure, with dark hair tied back and piercing green eyes that seemed to see right through people. Her presence commanded respect. "What makes you think I care about your mission?" Torres asked bluntly, leaning forward in her chair. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Because if that weapon activates, no one will be safe, not even you. The Zorathians won't stop until every corner of the galaxy is under their control." Torres studied him for a moment, then turned to a nearby screen showing the data Laura and Adam had retrieved from the outpost. Her expression hardened as she absorbed the details. "This changes things," she admitted, "but helping you isn't without risk. My people aren't soldiers, they're survivors." "We don't need soldiers," Daniel countered. "We need allies. Together, we can create a diversion while my team infiltrates the weapon's core. It's our only chance." Torres was silent for a long time. Finally, she stood up and extended her hand. "You've got guts, Carter. I'll help you. But if this goes south, you're on your own." With the Syndicate's support secured, the crew began planning their assault. The strategy was simple yet dangerous. The Solari fleet would launch a direct attack on the Zorathian armada guarding the superweapon, drawing their attention away from the Vanguard *. Meanwhile, Daniel and his team would slip past the defenses and disable the weapon from within. As preparations continued, tensions ran high. Dr. Richard Hayes worked tirelessly to analyze the alien technology they had recovered, searching for weaknesses. Adam practiced evasive maneuvers in the simulator, determined not to let his teammates down. Laura coordinated with the Syndicate's captains, ensuring everyone understood their roles. Finally, the day of the mission arrived. The Vanguard * and the Solari fleet emerged from hyperspace near the superweapon's location. The sight was overwhelming. A colossal structure orbiting a dying star, bristling with cannons and shield generators. It looked unstoppable. Daniel took a deep breath as he addressed his crew. "This is it," he said, his voice steady. "No matter what happens, remember why we're doing this. For Earth. For freedom. For everyone who's ever been afraid." The battle began moments later. The Solari ships charged forward, unleashing a barrage of firepower that forced the Zorathians to divert their attention. Amid the chaos, the Vanguard * slipped through the cracks, heading straight for the heart of the superweapon. The hardest part was still ahead, but for the first time in years, hope burned brightly in the hearts of those aboard the ship. The SS Vanguard * approached the superweapon cautiously, its sleek form blending into the shadows of the dying star's light. The structure loomed ahead, a monstrous machine that seemed alive with activity. Its surface was covered in glowing conduits and massive cannons, each one capable of obliterating an entire fleet. Daniel Carter gripped the armrests of his chair on the bridge, his jaw tight as he watched the scene unfold. Outside, the Solari fleet clashed fiercely with the Zorathian armada. Explosions lit up the void of space as ships exchanged fire, their movements fast and chaotic. The diversion was working. The Zorathians were too busy defending themselves to notice the small human warship sneaking toward their prize. But Daniel knew this advantage wouldn't last long. Every second counted. "Stay sharp," he ordered, glancing at his crew. Lieutenant Laura Bennett monitored the sensors, her brow furrowed in concentration. Dr. Richard Hayes sat nearby, analyzing data streams from the weapon systems. Ensign Adam Grant piloted the ship with steady hands, weaving through debris fields and avoiding detection. As they drew closer, the true scale of the superweapon became clear. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a fortress. Automated turrets scanned the area relentlessly, and swarms of drones patrolled its perimeter. Getting inside would be nearly impossible. "We'll have to disable the outer defenses first," Laura said, pointing to a cluster of power nodes on her screen. "If we can take those out, it'll weaken the shields." Daniel nodded. "Do it." Adam maneuvered the Vanguard into position, while Laura targeted the nodes with precision strikes. The ship shuddered under return fire, but they managed to destroy the defenses just long enough to slip through. The crew breathed a collective sigh of relief as they entered the superweapons docking bay. Inside, the air was thick with tension. The walls hummed with energy, and strange symbols glowed faintly on every surface. The place felt wrong, like it was watching them. Daniel led the team forward, his weapon ready. Laura stayed close behind him, her eyes scanning for threats. Richard carried a portable scanner, muttering to himself as he studied the alien technology. "This way," Richard said suddenly, pointing to a large door at the end of the corridor. "The core should be beyond here." But the door didn't open easily. It required a code, one written in Zorathian script. Richard frowned as he worked to decipher it. "Give me a minute," he said, his fingers flying over the keypad. Time felt like it was slipping away. The sounds of battle outside grew louder, shaking the walls around them. Then, without warning, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the distance. "They know we're here," Adam shouted, raising his weapon. "Keep moving," Daniel barked. The door finally slid open, revealing a vast chamber filled with machinery. In the center was the core, a pulsating orb of energy surrounded by a web of cables and conduits. It was both beautiful and terrifying, radiating power that made the air crackle. Richard rushed to examine it, his face pale. "This is worse than I thought," he said grimly. "It's using captured life forms to generate its energy. Those creatures are being drained alive." Daniel clenched his fists. The Zorathians' cruelty knew no bounds. "Can you shut it down?" he asked. "I think so," Richard replied. "But it won't be easy. I'll need time." Laura stepped forward, her weapon raised. "We'll hold them off. Do what you have to do." Moments later, the room erupted into chaos. Zorathian drones poured in, their glowing eyes locking onto the intruders. Laura fired steadily, taking down enemy after enemy. Adam used his agility to dodge attacks, retaliating with quick bursts of gunfire. Daniel stood guard near Richard, ensuring nothing disrupted his work. Despite the overwhelming odds, the crew fought with everything they had. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for something greater. Each shot fired, each step forward, brought them closer to ending the nightmare once and for all. Finally, Richard looked up, his face lined with exhaustion. "I'd done it," he said. "The core is destabilized. We need to get out of here, now." The team turned and ran, leaving the chamber behind. Behind them, The superweapon began to shake violently, its systems collapsing under the strain. The mission was far from over, but for the first time, hope burned brighter than fear. The *SS Vanguard * raced through the collapsing corridors of the superweapon, its crew battling against time and destruction. The ground beneath their feet trembled violently as alarms screamed and red emergency lights flashed. Pieces of the ceiling crumbled, forcing them to dodge falling debris. Captain Daniel Carter led the way, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. Behind him, Lieutenant Laura Bennett covered their retreat, firing precise shots at the Zorathian drones that relentlessly pursued them. Dr. Richard Hayes tumbled but quickly regained his footing. His face was pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. He had successfully destabilized the core, but the cost was already becoming clear. The entire structure was coming apart. "We don't have much time," he shouted over the chaos. "This whole thing is going to blow." Ensign Adam Grant was next to Richard, urging him forward. "Keep moving, Doc. We're almost there." His voice was tense but steady, though his hands gripped his weapon tightly. The young pilot's quick reflexes had saved them more than once during the escape, and now he scanned every corner for threats. As they reached the final stretch toward the docking bay, a massive explosion rocked the facility. A section of the wall collapsed, blocking their path. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Laura, Adam, clear it," he ordered. Together, the two unleashed a barrage of firepower, carving a narrow passage through the rubble. Smoke filled the air, stinging their eyes, but they pushed forward without pause. When they finally reached the docking bay, the sight of the Vanguard waiting for them felt like a miracle. The ship's engines roared as Ensign Grant remotely activated the pre-flight sequence. "Get aboard," Daniel yelled, waving the others ahead. Laura and Richard sprinted toward the ramp, their boots pounding against the metal floor. Adam followed close behind, keeping an eye on their rear. Daniel stayed behind for a moment, ensuring everyone made it safely inside. Just as he turned to board, a towering figure emerged from the smoke. General Krith, the Zorathian overseer, stepped into view. His massive frame blocked the entrance, his glowing red eyes locking onto Daniel with cold fury. Clad in heavy armor and wielding the weapon that crackled with energy, he was a formidable opponent. "You think you can defy us?" Krith growled, his voice like grinding metal. "You are nothing but insects." Daniel raised his weapon, his expression calm despite the danger. "Maybe we're insects," he said evenly, "but even insects can bring down giants." The two clashed in a fierce battle. Krith's strikes were powerful, each swing of his weapon sending shockwaves through the air. But Daniel was fast, using his agility to evade and counterattack. Sparks flew as their weapons collided, the noise deafening in the confined space. Despite the odds, Daniel fought with everything he had, knowing failure meant the end of not just his crew, but all their hopes. From the safety of the ship, Laura watched anxiously. She couldn't leave Daniel behind, but the countdown to the superweapon's destruction was ticking away. Finally, Daniel saw an opening. With a swift move, he struck Krith's weapon, disabling it. Before the general could recover, Daniel fired a concentrated blast, knocking him back into the flames engulfing the chamber. "Daniel, come on," Laura shouted from the hatch. With one last glance at the burning wreckage, Daniel sprinted toward the ship. The ramp closed behind him just as the Vanguard lifted off. Outside, the superweapon's core reached critical mass, its energy spiraling out of control. The crew braced themselves as the ship accelerated, racing to escape the impending explosion. Seconds later, a blinding light filled the viewport. The shockwave hit the Vanguard hard, shaking the vessel violently. For a moment, it seemed like they wouldn't make it. Then, as the light faded, the ship broke free, emerging into the vastness of space. Behind them, the superweapon erupted in a cataclysmic blast, its pieces scattering across the void. The crew sat in stunned silence, their hearts still pounding. They had done it. They had destroyed the weapon. But their relief was short-lived. In the distance, the Solari fleet continued to battle the Zorathian armada. Though weakened, the enemy wasn't defeated yet. Daniel looked at his exhausted team and nodded. There was still work to be done. The *SS Vanguard* emerged from the destruction of the superweapon, battered but intact. Smoke filled the corridors, and alarms blared as the crew worked to stabilize the ship. The battle outside raged on, with the Solari fleet still locked in combat against the Zorathian armada. Though the loss of the superweapon had dealt a heavy blow to the enemy, their forces were far from defeated. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, his face streaked with soot, but his eyes sharp and focused. "Damage report," he ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. Lieutenant Laura Bennett quickly scanned the consoles. "Engines are holding, but we've lost half our weapon systems. Shields are down to 20%. Daniel nodded grimly. They couldn't afford to sit idle. The Solari fleet was outnumbered and struggling to hold its ground. If they fell, the Zorathians would regroup and come after the *Vanguard*. "We need to help them," he said firmly. "Adam, get us back into the fight." Ensign Adam Grant didn't hesitate. He pushed the engines to their limits, guiding the *Vanguard* toward the heart of the battle. As they approached, the sight was overwhelming. Ships exploding in bursts of light, debris floating in the void, and beams of energy crisscrossing the darkness. Despite the odds, the Solari fighters continued to resist, their smaller vessels darting around the larger Zorathian dreadnoughts like sparks in a storm. "We can't take them all on," Laura said, her voice tense. "But maybe we don't have to." Daniel turned to Dr. Richard Hayes, who was already working furiously at his console. "Richard, is there any way we can use the weapon's destruction to our advantage?" The physicist looked up, his glasses askew. "There might be," he replied. "The blast left behind residual energy fields. If we can amplify them, we could create an EMP strong enough to disable the Zorathian ships." "Do it," Daniel said without hesitation. While Richard worked on modifying the *Vanguard's * systems, Laura coordinated with Commander Elena Torres and the Solari fleet. "Fall back to Sector 7, she instructed over the comms. "We'll cover you." The plan was risky. By drawing the Zorathians closer, the *Vanguard* would expose itself to concentrated fire. But if they succeeded, the EMP could turn the tide of the battle. As the Solari ships retreated, the Zorathians gave chase, their massive vessels closing in on the human warship. "Hold steady," Daniel ordered, gripping the edge of his chair. The first wave of enemy fire hit the *Vanguard*, shaking the ship violently. Sparks flew from overloaded panels, and warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Now, Richard," Daniel shouted. With a final keystroke, Richard activated the EMP. A pulse of energy surged outward, invisible but devastating. One by one, the Zorathian ships faltered, their systems failing as the electromagnetic wave washed over them. Their cannons went silent, and their engines sputtered to a halt. The battlefield grew eerily quiet as the once mighty armada drifted powerless in space. The Solari fleet seized the opportunity. Fighters swarmed the disabled ships, targeting critical systems and ensuring they wouldn't recover anytime soon. Cheers erupted over the comms as the tide of the battle shifted dramatically. But victory came at a cost. The *Vanguard* was heavily damaged, and the strain of the mission had taken its toll on the crew. Richard slumped in his seat, exhausted but relieved. Adam leaned back in his pilot's chair, letting out a shaky breath. Laura stared at the viewport, her hands trembling slightly as she processed what they had just accomplished. Daniel allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. They had done the impossible. They had struck a blow against the Zorathians that would echo throughout the galaxy. But he knew this was only the beginning. The Empire was vast, and its leaders would not take this defeat lightly. As the surviving ships regrouped, Commander Torres hailed the *Vanguard*. Her voice was warm with gratitude. "You did it, Carter. You've given us a fighting chance." Daniel nodded, though his expression remained serious. "This isn't over," he said. "But today we proved something important. Humanity isn't afraid anymore." The words hung in the air as the crew exchanged glances. For the first time in years, hope felt real. And as the Vanguard limped away from the battlefield, flanked by its newfound allies, Daniel knew they had ignited a spark that could light the way to freedom. The news of the superweapon's destruction spread quickly across the galaxy. It was a story that no one had dared to believe possible. A small human warship, working alongside a ragtag group of rebels, had struck a devastating blow against the Zorathian Empire. For centuries, fear had ruled the stars, but now, for the first time in generations, hope began to take root. Back on Earth, the crew of the SS Vanguard was welcomed as heroes. Cities that had once been silent with despair erupted in celebration. People gathered in streets and squares, waving makeshift banners and chanting Daniel Carter's name. The captain himself stood quietly on a platform overlooking the crowd, his sharp blue eyes scanning the sea of faces. He wasn't comfortable with praise, but he understood its importance. These people needed to see that resistance was not only possible, it could win. Lieutenant Laura Bennett stood beside him, her arms crossed as she watched the celebrations. "It's strange," she said softly. "After everything we've been through, it almost doesn't feel real." Daniel nodded. "It's just the beginning. The Zorathians won't give up easily." Dr. Richard Hayes approached them, his usual calm demeanor tinged with sadness. Though they had succeeded, the mission had cost him dearly. His hands bore fresh scars from repairing critical systems under fire, and his mind still carried the weight of what he'd seen inside the superweapon. "We showed them we can fight back," he said, "but there's so much more to do." Ensign Adam Grant joined the group, his youthful energy undimmed despite everything. "Think about it," he said with a grin. "We took down their biggest weapon. What else can we do if we keep pushing?" Their conversation was interrupted by Chancellor Patricia Monroe, who stepped forward to address the crowd. Her voice carried strength and resolve as she spoke of unity and rebuilding. "Today marks a new chapter for humanity," she declared. "We will no longer live in fear. Together, we will reclaim our place among the stars." As the cheers grew louder, Daniel turned away from the platform. He didn't need speeches or ceremonies. What mattered most was the future, the battles yet to be fought, the lives yet to be saved. He walked toward the Vanguard, its battered frame resting in a repair dock. Though damaged, the ship remained a symbol of defiance, proof that even the smallest spark could ignite change. Inside the hangar, Commander Elena Torres awaited him. Her green eyes softened as she extended her hand. "You've earned this moment, Carter," she said. "But remember, this is just the start. The Solari Syndicate will stand with Earth every step of the way." Daniel shook her hand firmly. "Then let's get to work." Over the following weeks, Earth began to transform. Governments that had long been divided came together under a single banner, pledging resources and manpower to rebuild their world and prepare for the challenges ahead. Factories once used to produce weapons of defense now churned out tools for colonization and exploration. Humanity was no longer content to cower. It yearned to expand, to reclaim what had been lost. For Daniel and his crew, there was little time to rest. Repairs to the Vanguard were completed swiftly, and soon the ship was ready for its next mission. As they prepared to launch, Daniel addressed his team one final time. "We've shown the galaxy that fear doesn't have to rule," he said. "But freedom isn't given, it's taken. And we're going to take it back, piece by piece." With those words, the Vanguard soared into the stars once more. Behind them, Earth burned brightly, a beacon of hope in a darkened galaxy. Ahead lay countless dangers, but also endless possibilities. The road would be long and fraught with challenges, but Daniel knew one thing for certain. Humanity had proven it could rise above fear. And as the ship disappeared into the vastness of space, The galaxy watched, waiting to see what the brave crew of the *SS Vanguard* would do next.